In episode 22, I'm joined by San Francisco Giants relief pitcher Spencer Bivens. After pitching in Gastonia for 2 years, prepare to learn about Bivens in the Bay. Our guest today is from Virginia Beach, Virginia, attended Lewisburg College, Penn State, and Rogers State University. Currently a relief pitcher for the San Francisco Giants. I know a guy, and his name is Spencer Bivens. Spencer, how's it going?
Good, man. Just tired. Got some work in earlier, but you know how it goes. The grind doesn't stop.
Of course, even in the offseason, right?
Of course, mainly in the off season.
So, Spencer, you were a 30-year-old rookie this year for the San Francisco Giants. How would you say your rookie season went?
I mean, there were some good things and there were some bad things, but overall, I was pretty happy with the body of work.
My body work is this: 27 appearances, 2 of them being starts, a 3-1 record, 3.14 ERA, 11 walks, 37 strikeouts, and also a save in there. So I'd say the numbers speak for themselves, right?
Yeah, I just every day still trying to prove it.
Your big league debut was on June 16th of 2024. You went 3 innings pitched, allowed just 1 run, got the win in relief. How was your adrenaline? How were your nerves before the game?
Oh wow, I hardly slept, and it was a day game, a 1 o'clock game, and I knew I was going to be in there early, just trying to hold it together. And I prepped for that moment my whole life, so I felt ready for it.
Did you change your routine at all before that debut or even before your first start?
The debut was kind of hectic because I hadn't really dealt with reporters a lot, and just being a brand new atmosphere and trying to do my routine kind of got messed up a little bit. But all in all, I felt I handled it pretty well.
What does
Yeah,
that everyday routine look like, or at least everyday routine when you pitch?
just pre pitcher stretch, trying to roll out and get the body loose and be comfortable. And so dealing with reporters in a new setting was kind of hard to get into that. Um, but then when it comes down to game time, it's the same old thing. And just kind of, I had a leg up. I found out which inning I was going to pitch in. So I got to prep a little earlier and anticipate that a little easier.
2 days after you turned 30 years old, you made your first start for the Giants on June 30th, and you were great, Spencer. 5 innings of 1 run ball against the eventual world champion Dodgers. You picked up the win, 3 strikeouts. You had 2 of them against 3-time MVP Shohei Ohtani. What was that like, facing Ohtani and then being successful in 2 of those times, striking him out?
Yeah, I mean, so this was early in my season, so I'm just trying to prove that I belong. I got to face the Dodgers now. I knew that was going to be a difficult test and got us a series win, and I just felt that proved to myself that I belong there and I can compete at a high level in the big leagues.
Now, talking about Shohei Ohtani specifically, of course, a couple strikeouts. You ended your outing with your second punch out of Ohtani, 82-mile-an-hour sweeper low and inside, while your team led 9-1. And Spencer, you were fired up. You threw your fist in the air like you were in a boxing ring. What were all those emotions coming from? Was it the story or the journey you took to get here? Was it because it was Shohei Ohtani? What were all those emotions you felt in that moment?
Well, it was kind of all of the above. I mean, I've always wanted to, start a major league game. Got to start it against the best team in baseball and face the best player in baseball, and to execute my plan against him and not have him beat me this time. So I just everything came together there, and I was able to just prove to myself that I belong there. And I was really proud of that moment, and it was pretty cool.
Now let's talk about that journey to get here. Indie ball right after college. You were with Gastonia in 2021 and 2022. Now, you made 14 starts in 21. You went 4-8 with a 7.26 ERA, allowed over 100 hits and just over 70 innings. So, of course, you always have to be confident about advancing higher up, have to be confident in your craft. Did the confidence ever waver because of the tough season with Gastonia in 21?
Well, I had a few starts that I really did dominate, but I think they were outweighed by some pretty short and bad ones against mainly High Point. Um, But I pitched really well against Long Island, pitched really well against Lexington, pitched really well against there was another team, Southern Maryland. But really, High Point had my number that year, and just continuing. And then West Virginia, I pitched well against West Virginia, the team who traded me to Gastonia that year. I learned a lot about just indie ball and myself. I had been on three different teams that year, and finally felt at home with Goose as a manager, real easy manager to play for, and really understanding. He just wanted to give me a chance, and the numbers may have not have shown it, but I felt confident in that role, and as a not really a leader on the team, but a guy that you know was important to the team. We didn't do so well, but I learned a lot about myself and how I need to approach it going in the next year.
What was it about Gastonia specifically that enabled you to showcase your talents and eventually get picked up by the Giants? Because you mentioned Goose and Brady was the assistant general manager in 2022 when you were there. Chuck
Yep.
Stewart was there. What was it about that Gastonia program?
Well, I knew Goose liked me, and he saw that I had something to prove and I had talent. But I really put in a lot of effort into that off season, the 21 to 22 off season, and I knew I had a chance to maybe start that coming year in spring training. I just wanted to be as sharp and ready as possible. I did tread remote program for 6 months, helped me get my velo up and helped me just refine my stuff. I came into spring training like 92 to 95, and I don't think anybody expected that. And then by this point, all the starting spots were taken by guys that were either AAA, big league. So I understood that, and I was just happy to make the team out of spring. Um, but I people were talking to me like, "How were you not in affiliate ball before? Or how have you not had an opportunity?" Like, I don't know. I'm just, this is my all in year. I kind of knew that if it didn't happen this year, I was probably going to be done. And luckily, it took 2, 3 outings to prove it to somebody, and the Giants picked me up. And we didn't even get a road trip into the season. It was two. I think we had 2 weeks at home, and I got picked up.
There you go.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I didn't expect it to happen that fast, but I knew the strides that I made, and I knew the adjustments that I made, and I could tell immediately with how I was approaching hitters and the way my stuff was playing. I had a chance. Um, so it was pretty cool. I really don't have words for it. The team that year was really special, and they were all extremely supportive. And I have a lot of teammates from that team that are still extremely supportive.
In 21, you were also with the Washington Wild Things. While with Washington, you put on your Twitter bio, what a story it will be. Safe to say that was a good take?
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. Yeah, a great take.
Spencer, you pitched 2 seasons at Lewisburg College in North Carolina. Cedric Mullins also played there. I know you've developed some sort of a relationship with him. You reposted a Cedric Mullins home run a few years ago on Twitter. You had a jersey swap with him this season in the big league. So, what kind of a relationship have you developed with him?
Yeah, so me and Ced were the same class at Lewisburg, and we came in together. He was like an initial starter, and I kind of was working my way into some innings. Didn't play much my freshman year, and he started in center field. Was getting looked at the entire time he was there. But Ced's a great guy. We've been friends since we've been at Lewisburg. We still are in a group chat with some of our guys. So he's kind of been supportive to me, like grinding through indie ball, and then I got picked up, and he was really proud of me. I actually played against him in Double A because he had a rehab start, and I actually started a game against the Orioles. So I faced him and like Jackson Holiday and some other guys. Um, but yeah, he's just been supportive the whole way. And then when we finally got to play against each other on a big league field, it was pretty cool. And I don't think any of the announcers really knew that we knew each other and played together. So it meant a lot to us and like my group chat, and then my old coach at Lewisburg, who coaches at Norfolk State now. So it was just really special, and I've known him for a while now, and we haven't just become friends because we're in the big leagues. We've known each other for a while.
We have a segment on this podcast called Cool Connections, where it's whether it's a household name or somebody who's really meant a lot to you in your journey. Would you say Cedric Mullins is your cool connection, or is there anybody else you could potentially think of?
I've got some other cool ones. I mean, Ced's always been, motivating, and he's been a big part of it. But my best friend, he went to Virginia Tech. We played high school together, grew up together. Um, Similar like life stories. But he's always my motivating factor. And I don't think he really knew that as much until I've done some of these podcasts and talked about him. But he was always like a real motivating factor for me. He was, a pretty high prospect out of high school, went to Virginia Tech, got drafted twice, ended up going with the Dodgers, played with their organization for a few years. But he actually kind of got me into pro ball. He got me my opportunity with the Washington Wild Things. I took the most of it. Didn't do so well there, but managed to continue to network and end up in Gastonia, and it seemed to work out. So I have a lot of respect for Cedric and Sage, and they played a large part in my continuing to play.
You have five pitches: sinker, sweeper, changeup, cutter, and four seamer. You throw a lot more changeups to lefties. Out of 104 changeups you threw in the big leagues in 2024, 90 of them were to lefties, which I think is very similar to Tommy Kahnle of the Yankees. He throws a lot more changeups to lefties. I mean, he practically throws almost only changeups, but it really works against lefties more than righties. How does your change work so well on lefty hitters?
It's just similar to my two seam in terms of shape, and then there's this little speed difference. So as long as I can keep it over the plate and not so much drifting towards the right side, if I can keep it a little bit more centered, I think it'll be even more effective. And I plan you might see some different things this coming year. Been working on my cutter a whole lot, sweeper, and just the overall command. I plan to have a little execution better. So I've got some changes in store for this coming year, but the changeup will be big, and the cutter and sweeper will be a little bit more refined.
Now, Ben Brewster from Tread Athletics, he posted a video about you changing your grip for your changeup. What you talk about going from throwing it from your ring finger to more like a two-seam grip with your thumb down. The vertical drop has phenomenal metrics for both your changeup and your sinker, or two-seamer, on Baseball Savant. Roughly 26 for your sinker, 34 for your changeup. So I guess, do you want to expand on what you were talking about on that video?
Yeah, so the induced vertical break, for a four seam like a good four seam fastball is like 16, 17, like above 18. 18 to 20 is like really elite. And average is probably 15, 16. So my four seam I figured out wasn't great. That's kind of why I got hit around in 21. I was throwing a four seam at like 14 inches, and that's like below average and pretty terrible. So the sinker is more of like 3 to 6 and can get anywhere close. It can get close to the zero line. Logan Webb does a really good job of that. His is like below the zero line, which makes him such an outlier pitch. But basically, the lower you can make it, the better it can be. And same thing with the changeup. The closer you get to the zero line of vert break, will make it better and more depthy. Um, so yeah, I was able to get my changeup down a little bit closer to the zero line and make it more play off of my two seam a lot better. Um, yeah, just killing the vert on it was huge for me.
You did bring up your four seam. It has great horizontal break. That's something that I saw on Baseball Savant. So, do you ever try using it essentially as a cutter on lefties? I know you have a cutter, but do you ever use that four seam because it has such great horizontal break in on lefties?
Yeah, I mainly just use it up and into lefties and hardly ever to righties. Sinker works the best to righties. I'll try to front hip lefties with the sinker, make it come back across. So yeah, it's I don't really use the four seam a whole lot unless it gets a little bit deeper into account and I really need to show something a little different. But the cutter has made me kind of able to eliminate the need for the four seam. because I've been able to get it to 92 to 94, 94. And it's been verti, and then it'll, cut in 1 or 2 inches. So it's got enough vert where it's hard to track, and then it's got enough horizontal where it's coming in hard.
You faced 10 batters this season with runners on first and second, didn't allow an additional base runner a single time out of the 10 batters you faced. You faced 39 batters with runners in scoring position. You had a whip of .79 in that scenario. How have you been so phenomenal at pitching in the clutch in the 2024 season?
Dang, I didn't know that stat, those either of those stats. It's just a focus thing, man. I'm fighting for my life up there. I'm not in any way, shape, or form like solidified, so I got to fight every time I'm out there. And it's just the focus level. It's got to be there every time. You know, and I catch hell on Instagram if I give up a run. So I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm trying to be the best I can for my team, and I know my role isn't as significant as some other guys. So I have to take advantage of every moment I get out there, and it's just trying to help the team win in any way possible.
Baseball Savant's amazing. I highly recommend you check it out.
I guess I have to. I didn't know I was good at these things.
It's a great site. It's a phenomenal site. Did anybody in particular help you out in San Fran when you were called up this year?
Yeah, so Blake Snell helped me out a lot with like the mental. I felt pretty confident with that already. Going through indie ball and grinding through the minor leagues at an older age. But Blake Snell helped me like refine some of the things that make you a major leaguer for a long time. And Logan Webb helped me with because we throw similar pitches, sinker changeup wise. Um, but there's been some guys that I've shot questions to that are in the same boat as me. Like me and Landon Roop talk about pitching to lefties, and he does such a great job getting lefties out, and that's kind of been something I struggle with. Um, and he's another sinker guy, so I try to just bounce ideas off of them. And like Lamont Wade, as a lefty hitter, I bounce things with him, and covering first base, I talk to him about where he's playing and when I'm expected to get over. Because there was a couple plays that I messed up this year, and I'm trying to be the best big leaguer that I can be. Robbie Ray, like just all these veteran guys. Taylor Rogers, Tyler Rogers, and I talked to Camilo Duvall about stuff, and my buddy Ryan Walker, who I came up with the Giants, and now he's just an absolute stud. Super proud of him. It's just been cool. Like everyone's been really supportive, and then the coaches, JP, and then G, our bullpen coach, and even our bullpen catchers have been extremely fundamental for me. But everybody's been great. Bob Melvin's been amazingly supportive and loves my story. So, but that alone won't keep me there. I just got to keep working, and I know what I need to work on, and that's just what I've been attacking this off season.
How could you not love your story? I mean, come on now.
Yeah, I forget about it a little bit, but it's what makes me me. So I'm really proud of it.
How did you turn your career around and end up where you are now? How would you say you did that?
Tread was a huge part, and then after that, when I got picked up, I went to the fall league after a crazy year of going from low A, high A to triple A to backup games. Went to the fall league, showed I could play at a high level against these high level prospects. The following year, I went to high A as a 28-year-old. I was like kind of defeated by that. Went to double A, ended the year there. Had a sub 4 ERA and probably 90 some innings. Um, so again, wasn't like probably going to get a big league invite. I was talking to pitching coach, like my pitching coach, Paul Osagura, in double A, talking about, he never made it to the big leagues, but just different avenues of like playing in Japan, playing winter ball. And he like highly advised it. And I was thinking about doing this. Got a lot of support from pitching coordinators to go do that. The Giants allowed me to go do that. I went and played in Mexico. And that really like set me up for success because I was a closer there, and these crazy stadiums and the fans that they have, they're super rowdy. So every situation was like high pressure, high stress, and that is something I felt like I didn't do super well in the beginning stages of minor league ball, like immediately getting in the strike zone. And I feel like that held me back from being called up to another level earlier. So in Mexico, I really like learned to attack the strike zone early with my best stuff and like not walk people and just honestly be a higher strike percentage in clutch situations.
What has surprised you most about the big league level now that you're there?
Uh, I guess it not surprising, but just seeing how consistent some of these great guys are and how how locked in on with what they need to do every day and having their routine dialed in. Like there's no fluctuation at all. It just there's always a purpose with everything. Blake Snell gave me some advice with like catch play. Like, and I already kind of did some of this. Like, I have a large focus on what I need to get done that day and how I can be better. But he's just next level with it. And I try to take some of that thought process into how I approach things now. Like, he doesn't even really like talk to people. He is locked in on what he needs to do at all times. And it's so impressive. And he's just been really cool. He's been cool to me about, whenever I ask questions. I try not to do too much with them. I know they're at a different level than I am, so I'm trying to get to that level. And whenever I get an opportunity to ask a question, I will ask a question. But they've been really cool. Him and Robbie Ray and Logan Webb have just been like phenomenal.
Good guys to learn from.
Yeah, they're amazing.
We're introducing a new segment to the podcast. We have a new podcast named Pep Talk now going forward. So, Pep Talk segment, what is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Best piece of advice I've ever gotten is don't stop until don't stop until you feel like you can't do it anymore. If you feel like you can do it, if you feel like you've got more goals to achieve and that you can do that, just keep doing what you believe in. Don't let anybody tell you what you can or can't do. Honestly, a lot of this came from me just telling myself this thing. Like there were plenty of people telling me to stop playing and like indie ball, it's not going to work out for you. But it was I kind of like fed off some of that like hate a little bit. But just do what you feel is the right thing to do.
Do you see yourself almost as a beacon of hope to those who are in indie ball right now, whether it's players in Gastonia, players anywhere who are in independent ball, who their confidence might be wavering, like I talked about earlier in the episode?
Yeah, I mean, I take a lot of pride in coming from indie ball, and I didn't sign for anything, and like beating out some of these guys who were first rounders or got paid a lot. I take a lot of pride in that, and indie ball guys, it's like it's not impossible. Like it's hard, don't get me wrong, but it's not impossible as long as you put in the work and you're motivated. I mean, you can do it. So I'm very proud of that.
What is the goal for you this offseason and in the 2025 season?
Again, I'm just trying to refine my pitches and just be consistent with locations and like execution of mainly slider changeup. Cutter was pretty good and like my sinker was pretty good, but if I can, continue to be consistent with locations, have my velo be the same. Obviously I want to throw 100 as a reliever, but I'm doing everything I can to just maybe add a little bit to that, but also just the execution of pitches is the most important thing to me.
Any predictions for the Giants?
I think we're going to be competitive. I think Buster was an absolutely amazing move, and he's been doing great things within the organization. So, some things I can't really talk about, and things I don't even know about. So I think we'll be competitive, and I think it'll be a step in the right direction.
I was a huge, huge Buster fan growing up, and I'm sure you were
Yeah,
probably too.
yeah.
So
I mean, I wasn't a huge Giants fan being an East Coast kid, but you can't not respect him and what they did. Giants were so much fun to watch, and I think Buster does a really good job of bringing the old veteran guys in that bring a lot to the game and are well respected. Like Barry Bonds is around all the time. That wasn't really a Buster thing, but Barry Bonds is in the building all the time, and to have a guy like that around and like Bolgason is incredible, and he's always around, and just it's so cool to be in that elite company. Um, it's incredible. So I'm excited for what Buster's going to bring to the table for us.
Did you approach Barry at all or no?
Yeah, I've said a few things to him. He gave me congratulations at Rickwood, him and Ken Griffey Jr. actually. So that was pretty cool. But every now and then I'll say, "What's up, goat?" And like it kind of just like doesn't he doesn't really give it much, but I get it. He's Barry Bonds. Sorry about that. But I just I gotta let him know that he's the greatest player ever.
As you should, as you should. Why not? Well, Spencer, best of luck to your Giants in 2025. Best of luck to you in the offseason. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciated it.
Thank you very much for having me, Noah. Gastonia has a special place in my heart, and Goose and Chuck are incredible fellas, and Brady's doing a great job for you guys. So I'm excited for you guys, and hopefully get a ring.